All right. All right. So it is Wednesday, June 1st. My name is Ben Mosier. I'm wearing a the Platypus hat. I've got sunglasses. We're keeping it weird. Today, we're going to do some more mapping caricatures. If you're not aware of what those are, also thank you, Cat Swatel, for the name. It is when we make a Wardley map based only on a Twitter profile. And I tweeted a long time ago, November 9th, 2021. That feels like 5 years ago. Reply and I'll board the map you based on your profile. And yeah, let's just say more people responded than I expected, and now I'm way behind. So today I'm going to do like one or two sort of just to kind of get back into the swing of things. And first up we have Jade Abbot. And so this is the Twitter profile, and basically like whenever I make terrible maps, like kind of the first thing that I do is just sort of find some things to like make note of. So here's an old map that I did before. I'm just gonna like make a list of parts basically. Like so who does, you know, based only on the Twitter profile, what's the system, who's involved, like what kind of capabilities are involved, and then we make a map based on that. So all right, boom. All right, Jade has a couple of things in the profile here that are interesting, right? So we've got silly person. So all silly people that I know have silliness in their list of capabilities. So like the ability to generate silliness is a capability I should know. And there are probably lots of supporting things required to do that, but we'll just stick with silliness for now. Anarchy. The ability to produce anarchy is interesting. I think there's like maybe a deconstruction kind of thing. Like how do you deconstruct, or not deconstruct, but like deontology maybe? I don't know. Something about removing the systems, right? So maybe like systems critique and potentially removal, let's say. I guess that would probably be required for anarchy. So it's like systems destruction, and creative destruction is, gosh, pretty cool, right? Because it frees up energy and allows new things to form. So I think that's neat. Let's see what else. We've got expert silly person, we got anarchist, we got scientist. That's pretty neat. So like there's some science involved. So I'm just making a list of parts because Wardley mapping is not more complicated than that, at least at first. Music. So Jade is a musician. Which, by the way, I was listening to their band. Jade plays bass, and it is dope. It is good stuff. Activism. I feel like that's probably related to the systems destruction part of things. And then slightly conscious. I mean, consciousness is overrated. Anyway, certified boss bitch. So we're going to call boss bitching. Wait, no, that's not right. Boss bitch being. Let's try that. So I think that's a capability. There's like certain qualities to that. And now you're asking like, well, how the heck are we supposed to make a map out of that? And that's a great question because these are just props and I need to figure out how to turn them into a system. So the first thing is like, once you see all your parts, you're like, okay, well, who's this for? Like who needs this stuff? And I think probably because has a lot to do with Jade. I imagine Jade has some needs of the world, and so this is probably a map that is useful to talk about in terms of both Jade and the people that she likes. So I bet she does science-y stuff for some companies, maybe, and let's see. And then like more broadly, I bet she likes to do stuff for the world. So three kind of quote unquote users, right? So the world. So this feels like a good start, right? So Jade, what does Jade need directly? Well, I mean, as a fellow silly person, I certainly understand needing silliness, and so like I wonder how. I forget how to use PowerPoint. I'm gonna need some pointers. Might need your help. How do I insert a friggin' line? Insert shape. Is a line a shape? I don't know. Guess it is now. Okay, there's a line, and then so what's the line for? Well, we're going to put relationships between these parts, dependency relationships. That's kind of like after you got a list of parts and you know who the parts are for, like who they're trying to serve. The next thing is like, well, what's the relationships between those parts? And well, here we've got dependency relationships. That's what Wardley mapping is all about. Dependencies. Yeah. Okay, so Jade depends on silliness directly. I think that matters. And then like Jade's particular brand of silliness probably does something lovely for the world. I don't know what it is yet. As a fellow silly person, I'm still learning what my silliness does for the world. And if you're here in the chat and you're watching, I would really appreciate some ideas from you about what silliness does for the world. Because those of us who like silliness don't know what it does. We have to do it for ourselves. So what does it do for you? Does it keep you entertained? I don't know. Does it give you something to point and laugh at? That might be true. I don't know. But either way, I'm going to basically make this basic system where it's like, hey, silliness is something that Jade needs directly, and also that the world needs something else that is enabled by silliness. And I don't know what that is. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. So the world also needs music, I think. I'm just going to make that correct sort of thing. The world needs music. I think that's like a top tier kind of need. Jade probably also needs music, but I think probably the thing that's more interesting for Jade is the playing of the music. And I see I was looking at the website for the band and all that kind of stuff, and Jade plays bass. Bass playing is definitely an important capability. Also, bass players have a certain kind of silliness to them. I mean, they're like playing like this all the time, right? So they're like trying to like play music notes with their fingers, and I can never do that. I can only play like strum, use the pick or whatever. Like I can't do the thing with the fingers. I think that's pretty silly. So silliness is enabled by bass playing. Oh, so is music. Oh, we are officially in map caricature territory, because I'm finding the relationships. It doesn't matter what the parts are, you'll be able to find those relationships. All right, so now boss bitch being feels kind of higher. Like it feels like that's a first level requirement for Jade, is like to exist in the world and be happy with that existence requires being a boss ass bitch. And then let's see, that depends on a number of things. Honestly, bass playing, right up there. One of the things that probably enables boss bitch being, so to speak. And then I think science also belongs there. That's pretty boss. There's science behind bass playing, whether you know it or not. Although maybe that relationship isn't worth pointing out here. So let's, I'm curating my map, as anyone who makes a worthy map does. They curate what to put in it because they want certain things to be discussable and other things to not be discussable. That's how map making works, which is pretty neat. What else does boss bitch being depend on? Let's see. Feels like activism is a thing that depends on. Like, if you're not standing up for stuff, then you're not being a boss ass bitch. So systems destruction. I'm gonna like just replace this with like creative destruction, because it's my map. I can do what I want to, and I think creative destruction destroys old systems, which creates moments of anarchy, which then can be, I'm not an expert on various political theories, but which then can at least create like transitionary spaces for interesting new systems to come about. Let's see, and self-governing things. So creative destruction enables that, and then let's see, activism fits in here somehow. Probably like activism is probably like down here, because it enables, like if you are an activist for something, you're enabling critique of a system, right? You're like talking about the ways that the system is or isn't working. So then, what do you do with that? Well, I guess activism enables you to do something to that system, right? And oftentimes there is pent-up energy in a system that ought to be released because it's basically, vestigial, or it's serving sort of problematic power structures, etc. So creative destruction does enable moments of anarchy. Well, actually, let me just break this out then. creativity and destruction. Hell yeah. All right. Look, I'm not a doctor. I don't know how this stuff works, but I'm just telling you what's in my brain right now, what I'm riffing on. So I can be wrong. That's allowed. But, you know, here's how I think might be happening. So, like, activism is both an expression of critique of the system and how it should be destroyed, but also how it should be different. And that enables sort of a creative view of how to view things. But I think creativity also fits into this anarchy kind of thing, because in a certain sense, like, you're only creative when you're free of certain kinds of constraints. You know, you need some constraints, but you don't need all of the constraints that you always have. And I think production of anarchy is definitional boss bitch being. And what else does creativity enable? Well, creativity definitely enables silliness. Look, I'm trying too hard on this at this point. Like, we're going deep, and I think this is probably good enough to turn this structure that we've just created is like a thing called a value chain. And the way that you read a value chain is from top to bottom. You start with the people who get value from it. You know, just forget the companies. Who cares about them? All right, the world, yes, needs music. Music needs bass playing. That's pretty sweet. Awesome. You know what? I just noticed bass playing probably needs a little bit of anarchy. Get some punk going there. Again, my map. I do what I want. All right. So the world needs music. Music needs bass playing. Bass playing needs anarchy. Anarchy needs destruction. Destruction needs activism. And then similarly, let's see. What else does creativity enable? Je ne sais quoi, like, or pas maybe? I don't know. I never took French. But I think creativity is directly connected up to this unknown thing that the world needs. And maybe there's a bunch of stuff in there. But anyway, so then we can say the world needs something. We don't know what yet. And that something is enabled by silliness and creativity. And creativity depends on anarchy. You got to have, you know, independence. I forget the right way to describe anarchy. It's not no rules. It's like self-determination, something like that. I don't know. And then creativity depends on anarchy, depends on destruction, depends on activism. Creativity also directly depends on activism. And now I have the unfortunate kind of duty to sort of figure out where these things fit on the evolution of, or on the evolution axis. So this one is for Alien Elf, which is Jade Abbot. Highly recommend going to Jade's website and checking out the music down here. Follow me, follow you. I listened to it a little bit and it was awesome. I was like jamming out. It was good stuff. All right, this is for Alien Elf. So now I have to figure out how evolved everything is, and this is always a pain because there are a lot of characteristics that we could use to make that determination. And I'm not even sure if this is going to be legible, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Forgive me if this is hard to see, but basically evolution has 4 stages. You commonly see the label Genesis, Custom, Product, and Commodity for the first 4, for the 4 stages. That particular spectrum is based on like activities, so the things people do. You can use pretty much anything in here as alternate labels for your axes. Like down here, I chose to use novel, diverging, converging, accepted, because that seemed cool. And if you go back to the evolutionary characteristics cheat sheet for Wardley mapping, you can see that we've sort of mixed and matched some of these. So practice, novelty for stage 1, and then divergent data, convergent data, and then I think I said accepted for knowledge. Is that what I said? Yeah, okay. So you can mix and match. The important thing is just that you're getting the idea that each stage of evolution has all of these qualities. So if something's in stage 1, it is high failure. It is constantly changing. It is high future worth, but immediate investment is the focus of value. Like, it's all those things, right? So, and so if you say something's in stage 1, it is basically you writing down your assumption. That's like, hey, this is a thing. These are all in stage 1 and they have all these characteristics. But if you say something's in stage 4, well, then you're saying that it has all these other characteristics on the right. So you're saying it's you know, surprising if it fails, it's metric driven, it's essential, it's blah, 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 blah. So now we have like this job of like sorting all these parts. Whoopsie daisy, wrong map. Here we go. All right, and basically we have to sort them by those qualities and characteristics. And you actually, you know what? Just because I don't feel like thinking too hard, I'm going to use my favorite one instead of these. I'm going to use failure. So failure is expected. Um, let's see. We're going to make this obvious that this is the characteristic we're using. Boop, boop, boop. Make bigger. There we go. So failure is expected in stage 1. It's disappointing, but like, you know, not surprising. In stage 2, in stage 3, it becomes not tolerated. Cool. And then in stage 4, it's like surprising. Wow, it failed. That should never happen. Think about power failure, like when the electricity goes out. That's always surprising and annoying and painful. All right, so I'm going to get the rest of the stuff put in here. Okay, so music, I think, let's see, is failure in music expected, disappointing, not tolerated, or surprising? I think, I don't mean the performance of music, I mean like the availability of music, like to choose music and listen to it and stuff like that. So I think it's surprising if that ever fails because we have lovely music services and things like that that we can always listen to, click a button, get music. It's really not supposed to fail. So I'm going to put that in surprising. Failure is surprising when it comes to playing music. Yay! What about bass playing? I would say that failure would not be tolerated if you're a bass player. Like, if you're in a band, as Jade is, then the way Jade probably sees the world is playing music, all that fun stuff, right? And so bass playing is, you know, you shouldn't be failing while playing shows and stuff like that. But, like, you're gonna, because people are human, and, like, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's really hard to like get your hand all cramped up while playing bass and like do the fingers on the strings and stuff like that. So I feel like failure can happen there. So not tolerated, always trying to get better. That makes sense. Okay, so we've got music done and we've got bass playing done. Silliness. Oh, okay. I feel like silliness fails a lot, at least from my personal experience. So I might be introducing some bias here. Sometimes silliness is not appreciated. I am perfectly happy with that, though. I'm happy with that kind of failure. It's disappointing, but it's like, you know, I'm not surprised. So I'm going to put it here between stages 1 and 2. Expected failure, disappointing failure, somewhere between there. I'll come back to boss bitch being creativity. Creativity. Failure is expected, I think. I've been trying to write a card deck for Pip decks, and with David Hall, my co-author, and it has been, I will say, enormously difficult and failure every day. So I've come to expect it at this point. We're building something called Strategy Tactics for Pip decks, pipdecks.com if you're curious about that. We're going to add in some Wardley mapping kind of concepts in here without necessarily beating people over the head with Wardley mapping. We're also going to do some ideal present stuff from Jay Bloom's PhD work as well. And there's just a bunch of stuff we're going to do. Very opinionated. But we're working on building this. We've been writing the cards for what feels like forever. But yeah. So, creativity feels like a stage 1 thing. Activism, I think failure is not necessarily expected, but it's definitely like disappointing when activism doesn't work. But like it's a tireless, like forever disappointing kind of thing. Making things better is hard, and advocating for something and being an activist for something is hard. And so failure, I think, would probably be either expected or just merely disappointing. So maybe I'll put this sort of like between 1 and 2. Destruction. What kind of destruction, though? Well, we're talking about destruction with respect to activism. So destroying old systems that are problematic in order to create an anarchist moment that enables some kind of anarchy and also bass playing, because that's important. That kind of destruction, which is different than like hitting something with a hammer, perhaps, although there's probably some overlap, might be like defunding something, for example. And getting to the point where you have the consensus required to defund something, probably pretty hard. So I think it's in line with activism. Like it's really existing systems want to continue to exist. Anarchy is something that almost nobody probably understands or successfully performs because society is so interconnected and there are like standard ways of being that are deployed, almost like a monocrop of the mind or something. I don't know. I'm being goofy. But that feels like failure is expected in a way. And then what we got left? We got science. I think the quintessential thing about science is that failure is not necessarily tolerated. I think they go to the extent of like redefining success and failure is like, did you learn something, as opposed to whether or not you actually fail. So in a sense, I'm thinking like, do experiments fail or do they not fail? And I think in this case, experiments are expected not to fail in the execution of the experiment, although like the performance of the particular like result might be failure in terms of your expectation or something like that. That makes sense to me. I don't know, like doing the experimenting is expected to not fail. The experiment itself might fail. I hope that makes sense. I don't know. But there's a different thing, like I would add a different thing here called an experiment if I wanted to represent that here. Okay, that leaves us with boss bitch being. Now, I think that boss bitch being is relatively a relatively known phenomenon at this point, and I would suspect that given the fact that there's lots of music out there about boss bitch being, now that you mention it, oh, okay, so this is important. We gotta just like rearrange our things here. There's a relationship between boss bitch being and music. Boss bitch being depends on music, promoted by music, or is music the result of boss bitch being? I don't know. I got a question, but I think for now I'm gonna say that like music has enabled the concept of boss bitch being, and I think boss bitch being itself has multiple modes, but it's well understood enough that it's something that kind of I think a lot of people are at least attempting to do, and I think failure is probably not tolerated there. Like you're just going to be continuously refining your beingness of being a boss ass bitch, and over time achieve ultimate enlightenment of like the true form of being a boss ass bitch of some kind. All right, that's my silly map. Unfortunately, I have to go. That was all I had time. I just wanted to all I had time to do. I just wanted to kind of like get back into the habit, be a little silly, and start making some of these more maps for folks. If you want to get a map made of your own, in the chat for this live stream, there will be a link, which I am posting right now. If you reply to me, I must warn you, it has taken me until this point to get to Jade's, and I think Jade pinged me in November of last year. Yeah, November of last year. So I'll get to you when I get to you. And with that, thank you all for hanging out with me. Be well, stay safe. Go make a Wardley map. There are lots of YouTube videos. Oh, and also I have an online course. If you want to learn how to make Wardley maps as quickly and goofily as I have, go to learnwardleymapping.com. And you'll see a link to the course there. Also, this is just a great reference site for all sorts of awesome things related to Wardley mapping, articles, reference material, upcoming events, all sorts of fun stuff. So joining me there, if you grab the course, if you feel like you want to get started really quickly, but you can also get the book that Simon Wardley wrote. Highly recommend his book. With that, I have to leave. Thank you all for your time. Got to go get ready for a workshop. Where I will look less goofy than this. All right. Thank you, everybody. You're the best. Nice to see you. Bye-bye.